59A-37.008 Records. Resident Records. The AFCH provider shall maintain a separate record for each resident on premises and available for inspection by the agency. When they come out to do their inspections, they will inspect all your records, and that's a really easy place for them to find something. So if you're keeping up with your records, you shouldn't have a problem. Training, resident orders, the admission package, your health assessment forms. So make sure that everything is in there, and you're doing an audit every month. Just assign somebody to do the audit, and you should be good. So the record shall contain the ACA form, the resident health assessment form. A completed and signed faxed form by the healthcare provider is acceptable. The resident's healthcare provider certification, whether he or she may be left without supervision in the AFCH for up to 2 hours in a 24-hour period, must be completed and included. A copy of the residency agreement which meets the requirements for this rule, including a copy of any notices of rate increases sent to the resident or resident representatives or any addendums. So right there, going back with documenting everything and making sure you're writing out anything you do, and that way you have a record of it. For residents who are OSS recipients, a copy of the OSS form provided by the Department of Children, Family and Services must be in there. Resident information, which includes the name, address, and telephone number of their guardian or any other responsible party with authority to make decisions on behalf of the resident, the name, telephone number, and address of their healthcare provider, dentist, case managers, anything like that, a complete accounting of any resident funds being received or distributed by the provider. For residents who self-administer with or without supervision or assistance, a list of the resident's current medications, or residents receiving administration, the record of medications administered. So medication records, doctor's orders, past MRs, very important. For residents receiving nursing services provided or arranged for by the provider, the nursing progress notes required under this rule and the healthcare provider's orders authorizing the nursing service. So if you are getting home health, hospice, any third-party company coming in and providing nursing services, you need to have the doctor's order on file and the progress notes. A copy of any special diet ordered, prescribed by the resident's healthcare provider. If they're on a diabetic diet, or renal diet, or soft foods diet, make sure that's documented and put in the file. A record of any major incidents or significant health changes and action taken in response to such incidents or changes. The resident's monthly weight record. Documentation that the resident's Bill of Rights and the procedure for lodging complaints have been discussed with the resident or their representative. Documentation that the house rules have been discussed with the resident or resident's representative. Copy of any notice of discharge sent to the resident or resident's representative. And closed resident records shall be retained for a period of 5 years after the resident leaves the AFCH. The provider shall be permitted 1 working day to produce closed records. Staff records. An AFCH provider shall at minimum maintain the following personnel records on the premises and available for inspection by the agency. For the AFCH provider, each relief person, each adult household member, and each staff person verification of freedom from communicable disease is required to be in the file. Remember, that's a one-time statement that needs to be signed by your healthcare provider. For the AFCH provider, each relief person and each staff person, they need written documentation of all training that's required, a copy of any professional license. For each staff member employed by the provider, a copy of the employment application which shall include the date of beginning employment. For any person left in charge of residents, written documentation of first aid and CPR training is required. If the AFCH provider contracts with a staffing agency to provide services to resident, The contract between the AFCH provider and the staffing agency must specifically describe the services the agency will be providing to the residents. The AFCH provider is not required to maintain personnel records for staff provided by a staffing agency. Just in case you're confused on when you'll use the staffing agency, maybe you need a relief person, somebody quit, you have people on vacation. You can use a third-party staffing company to hire a home health aide, HHA, a CNA, possibly a nurse. They'll come in for a set fee and slot into the position at your facility. They will bring a paper check sheet of the services they're going to provide, and usually you sign off on it and you take your copy and keep it in the file. Facility records. The AFCH provider shall maintain the following records on the premises and ensure the records are available for inspection by the agency. The AFCH license issued by the agency, which shall also be available to the public upon request. A copy of the most recent county health department inspection. A copy of the most recent fire safety inspection. Documentation of radon testing. The emergency plan. An up-to-date log listing all residents and each resident's date of admission, the place admitted from and the reason for moving into the home, if known, and a date of discharge, the reason for discharge, and the location to which the person has been discharged, or if the person is deceased, the date of death. This is your admission and discharge log. Just how it sounds, just create a log. As people move in, put their name and their information, and then leave a spot at the end for when they either move out or pass on, and you can write notes there and just keep that. They'll ask for it. ALCA will ask for it when they come in to inspect. All completed survey and complaint investigation reports and notices of sanctions and moratoriums issued to the AFCH by the agency within the last 3 years, which shall also be available to the public upon request. For AFCHs which claim to provide special care for persons with Alzheimer's disease and related disorders, a copy of all advertisements or documents distributed to the public. The facility shall maintain a record of each fire drill, and it needs to be on Form DI-4-1437. Your fire exit drill records for adult family care homes as set forth in 59A-37.006. and in the Florida Administrative Code. So, as you can see, records are very important. This is something that they inspect every single time they come in. Don't get behind on them. I suggest that you create yourself a nice checklist for when residents are moving in, when you hire new staff, and that way you can check it off, all the check boxes, and you'll know exactly what you need to do and what you need in that file.